G'day everyone, I'm coming to you from Airlie Beach in far north Queensland. This is not the video I expected to be sharing with you guys. I expected that the next video I would post would be showing you the electrical system that had been installed. I was coming up here to get solar panels and electrical and everything installed, and it was meant to be a quick trip, 3 days to drive up here, spend a few days here while the electrician did all the work, and a quick trip back home because I was supposed to be back at work next week. But instead the bus broke down and instead of arriving home tonight, which is what I was supposed to be doing, I'm actually now stuck in Airlie Beach until I can get the bus fixed. Well, good morning. I have just spent my second night sleeping in the bus. I am on my first proper road trip in the bus. I'm heading up to Airlie Beach to see my electrician who's going to be installing the solar panels and the big components of my electrical system. And it's a big trip. It's about 1,300 kilometres from where I live just outside of Brisbane, and it is by far the furthest I've ever driven in the bus. So it's been a good test for the bus, it's been a good test for my build. It's been a totally new experience for me because I don't know if you guys know this, before I bought the bus I have done a lot of travelling over the years, but it's mostly been backpacking and camping in my tent with my car. I've been on 2 short trips where I hired a camper van many years ago, and on both of those trips I stayed in caravan parks with power hookups and like the whole kit and caboodle. So this has been my first experience of staying in free camp, so it's kind of cool. Last night was my first night in the bus and I camped at a free camp in Gin. That was pretty good, and there was a bit of traffic noise from the highway, but it wasn't too bad. And last night I camped here at another free camp in Waverley Creek, just north of Marlborough, and this is a lovely spot. I managed to score a spot in the corner overlooking a bit of bush, and I'm currently watching the sun come up as I have my coffee and do a bit of journaling this morning, so it's just nice. There weren't too many vans here last night, so it was pretty quiet. As I said, it's the furthest I've ever driven in the bus, and to be honest I haven't driven the bus much at all really since I first got it, because most of the time it's been sitting while I do the build. And the furthest I'd driven it before this was up to Beerburrum, which is about 2 hours north of where I live, to see my mechanic. And on one of those trips I had a very scary experience where my brakes jammed up at the top of the Dagular range and I had smoke pouring out from the back of the rear wheels, so that was really stressful. Since then that's all been fixed and I've got a really good mechanic who I trust. So the bus is in very good mechanical condition, but I guess that incident's still in the back of my mind, and I was still a bit nervous about driving the bus this far and worried about how it would go. I've done about 10 hours of driving, I think, since I left home 2 days ago, and the bus has not missed a beat. She has run flawlessly the whole way, so I'm really happy and I'm a lot more relaxed now than I was at the beginning. I'm really happy with the build. Nothing has moved. My roof racks that I just finished building last week have not moved at all. They are still super solid. Bolts are all still really tight, so I'm happy with that. You know, none of my cabinets have come open, my fridge hasn't moved. I'm really happy with the build inside. So, I mean, obviously I haven't been on any super rough roads. There's some patches of the Bruce Highway that are a bit dodgy with potholes and rough sections, but nothing super rough. So, time will tell, but so far I'm really happy with the build. So today is the last leg of my trek to Airlie Beach. It's about 3.5 hours drive according to Google from here, which probably means 4.5 hours in the bus, because I don't drive as fast in the bus as I would if I was driving a car, and I also like to take a few breaks along the way. So it's at least 4 hours drive, and I'm actually booked into a caravan park in Airlie Beach tonight, so I'll have a powered site. I've got an ensuite site, so I'll have a proper shower, yay. But I can't check into the caravan park until 2 o'clock this afternoon, so there's not really much point in me leaving super early this morning, so I'm just going to hang around the campsite here, take my time packing up and setting off, which will be nice actually, because as I said, I was pretty stressed before I left home, worried about how things would go, and it's been 2 long days of driving, so it's nice to just have a bit more of a slower day today. Okay, well, it seems like maybe I spoke too soon this morning when I said how well the bus had been running the last 3 days. Because now it seems like I may not actually make it to Airlie Beach tonight. So the bus has been going really well all day. As I said, no issues. I pulled over at a roadside rest stop just north of Mackay to have some lunch and went to restart the bus, and it is making a horrible, really bizarre noise from the engine, which I've never heard anything like before. It doesn't sound like loose belts or anything that I'm familiar with. So I'm not sure if it's safe to drive, so I'm not going to risk it. I'm 35 k's north of Mackay. I've called my roadside assistance and they're sending someone out, so hopefully they'll be here soon to have a look at it. Yeah, at this point I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue driving tonight or if I'm going to have to get a tow back to Mackay. I'm not sure. We'll just have to wait and see what the roadside assistance people say. But yeah, I was so close. I'm literally only an hour and 20 minutes, I think, from Airlie Beach. So, yeah, solar panels are probably not going to happen tomorrow, but we'll see. You never know. So it's been quite a few days since I last made that video when I was stuck at the rest stop waiting for the roadside assistance guy. And I ended up having to wait almost 3 hours for the guy to come out and have a look. And when he got there, he basically had like a 5-minute look, said all of the belts were loose, and the sound that we could hear sounded like it was a loose bearing, but he said he couldn't tell which bearing it was. There was like 5 different pulleys in that area where the noise was coming from, and he said without taking all the belts off, which he didn't want to do at the roadside, he couldn't tell like what the noise was. But he didn't seem to think it was anything major, and he said I would be okay to drive the bus back to Mackay to find a mechanic there the next day, because by this stage it's like late Sunday evening, so nothing's open. But he said you might have luck finding a mechanic to have a good look at it and fix whatever the issue is on Monday morning. By this stage, as I said though, it was quite late, and I didn't have any idea of where to stay in Mackay. It was too late to book into a caravan park because by this stage most of the caravan park offices were closed. I didn't know of any decent free camps in Mackay. So I decided, fortunately the rest stop where I was only a few kilometres up the road from a pub that allowed RVs to camp out the back. So I ended up just driving 4 kilometres up the road to this pub. It was the Catabul Hotel, and I ended up staying there, and it was a lovely pub. The staff in the pub was so friendly, and I had a great dinner there, and it was a nice quiet spot off the highway to camp out the back. They have toilets there that are open 24/7, and it's totally free if you support the pub and buy a drink or a meal at the bar. So I spent the night there. And my plan for the next morning was to try and see a mechanic that was actually just up the road from the pub. So I'd passed a mechanic shop on the way to the pub, so I thought I might try there the next morning. So Monday morning I started up the bus again and headed a couple of k's back up the road to this mechanic shop. When I got there, despite Google telling me that they opened at 8 a.m, I got there maybe 8:30. Everything was totally closed up. There was no one around, and the people at the servo across the road said, oh no, that mechanic's closed up shop. So I didn't have any luck there. Now in the process of driving, like starting up the bus that morning and driving it a few k's up the road, I couldn't hear that noise at all. So I was trying to decide what to do, and I thought, do I drive almost 40 k's back to Mackay, where I didn't know anyone, I didn't know any good mechanics or anything there, or do I try and drive 100 k's to where I was going in Airlie Beach? And I decided that if it was okay to drive to Mackay, then I should be able to limp it to Airlie Beach. So that's what I did. I drove a bit over 100 k's that day. I kind of stayed under 80 kilometers an hour because I was a bit wary about what might be going on, and I kept an eye on the temperature gauge the whole time. It didn't move up, there was no issues. And we made it to the electrician's place at Airlie Beach. And when I got there, Steve took a quick look at the engine, and straight away he was able to tell me that it was the bearing in the water pump that had totally gone, and the water pump was what was jiggling around and making that noise the day before. So, you know, the roadside assistance guy couldn't tell me that when he looked at it. Steve, who's not even a mechanic, took 5 minutes to look at it and said straight away what the problem was. So it was really lucky that the bus made it to Airlie Beach, because there's no way I would have driven the bus that far if I'd known there was an issue with the water pump. And I'm just really lucky that the pump didn't fail altogether, because I could have, would risk cooking my engine. So I was really lucky that I finally made it to Airlie Beach. So Steve thought his mechanic might be able to come and have a look and fix it for me, but when he contacted him, he found out he was leaving on holidays that day, so he wasn't going to be able to help at all. So I spent the rest of the afternoon making a zillion phone calls to try and get hold of someone that A, was happy to work on coasters, because some mechanics won't work on Toyota coaster buses, and 2, someone that could replace the water pump within a reasonable time frame, because a lot of them were booked out for 2, 4, 6 weeks, and I was supposed to be back at work in Brisbane next week, so I was really running out of time. Anyway, I finally got onto a mob here in Airlie Beach who do work on coasters and larger rigs, and they specialise in radiators and that kind of thing. So they were happy to replace the water pump. And they said that assuming they could get a new water pump delivered up here in time, they should be able to do the job on Monday next week. So not quite what I had planned for this trip. And it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, because I was actually due to leave on this trip a couple of weeks ago, and it got delayed because I had to totally rebuild the roof racks when I stuffed up that build, and so that kind of delayed the trip. So I was already a little bit stressed about that, and then I was stressed about driving the bus this far because it was the furthest I'd ever driven it, and then because the bus had been running so well for 2 days, I was just starting to relax, and then this happened. So, and I was all stressed again. So it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I feel like I'm the worst YouTuber on earth, because I feel like I should have been filming all of the drama as it was happening, but I'm not used to doing this kind of video stuff, and I think I was just so stressed, and on top of being really tired to begin with, I just wasn't in the right headspace to be doing that. But anyway, I guess this is giving me a true taste of what life on the road could be like, because there will be times when the bus breaks down and unexpected things happen and you have to change your plans. So anyway, as I said, that all happened a few days ago, and so it was a relief to be able to get the bus booked in somewhere to have it repaired. They've ordered a new water pump. It has to come from Sydney, so it will take a few days. They ordered it at the beginning of the week, so they're expecting it to be here by tomorrow. So fingers crossed it arrives this week and I can get the job done on Monday. And head back home next week. But I'm not counting my chickens with anything with this bus now. I'm just taking each day as it comes, and we'll see what happens, and just do what we need to do at the time. So now, of course, instead of the original plan, which was just to be here for a few days while Steve did all the electrical work on the bus, I'm now going to be stuck here for almost a week waiting for the appointment at the mechanical shop. So there are worse places to be stuck than Airlie Beach, so I'm not really complaining. It's just adding a lot more expense to what was already an expensive trip for me. I have fortunately managed to get a spot in a caravan park in town, which is actually just around the corner from the mechanic shop that's going to be doing the repair on Monday. So that was fortunate. I managed to limp the bus from Steve's place to here to the caravan park, and then I can just hopefully get it from here a block away to the mechanic shop without any issues on Monday. So it just means I need to hang around here in Airlie Beach for the next few days and have a holiday, which wasn't planned but probably very much needed at this point.